We are talking posing today, and that is posing with puppies. Well, dogs, but don't we call all dogs puppies? Is that just me? Anyway, if you're a pet photographer, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for this conversation. But if you're also a portrait photographer or a wedding photographer and sometimes photograph dogs or want to photograph more dogs, well, you're going to want to stick around too. So stay tuned. I'm Nicole Begley, a zoological animal trainer turned pet and family photographer. Back in 2010, I embarked on my own adventure in photography, transforming a bootstrapping startup into a thriving six-figure business by 2012. Since then, my mission has been to empower photographers like you, sharing the knowledge and strategies that have helped me help thousands of photographers build their own profitable businesses. I believe that achieving $2,000 to $3,000 sales is your fastest route to six-figure businesses, that any technically proficient photographer can consistently hit four-figure sales, and no matter if you want photography to be your full-time passion or a part-time pursuit, profitability is possible. If you're a portrait photographer aspiring to craft a business that aligns perfectly with the life you envision, then you're in exactly the right place. With over 350,000 downloads, welcome to the Freedom Focus Photography Podcast. Welcome back to the Freedom Focus Photography Podcast. I am your host, Nicole Begley, and I love to help pet photographers master the craft and all portrait photographers make more money in their business. So glad to have you back. Let's get to it. In today's episode, I want to talk about posing. Now, posing with dogs, whether it's posing with the dog only for your sessions or posing the dog and their owner or owners. And I realize this can be a challenging thing to talk about on a podcast because, well, we don't really have any visual cues, do we? But that's why I wanted to put together a free download of these 6 cards that you can grab for free so you can follow along and read over them and have these tips for yourself for your sessions coming up. So if you go to www.hairofthedogacademy.com/posing-tips, then you will be able to download these 6 cards totally for free and utilize them. The link will be down in the show notes. Now, these 6 cards are pulled out of our deck of 50 posing cards that we have here at Hair of the Dog Academy to help pet photographers build more variety in their pet photography sessions. Because I don't know about you, but have you ever gone to a session and you get there and you're starting to photograph and then all of a sudden your mind goes blank and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Let's put the dog in front of that and then in front of that and then in front of that. and you just can't think of what else to do with the dog or what else to do with the dog and their owner or their person. And it can feel a little nerve-wracking and make us kind of question everything that we are doing with this particular photography business, right? Is that just me? I know when I was starting, I would go to a session and feel absolutely certain that my client was going to find out that I didn't really know what I was doing and that they thought that I should be, working more quickly. And if I took a moment to breathe or a moment to think, that they would all of a sudden say to me, like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what you're doing. What am I doing here? What's going on? And I would be found out to be a total fraud. Anyone else? Does anyone else feel that sometimes, that pressure of feeling like you always need to know exactly what's next in your sessions? I think that's pretty common. And that is definitely something that I struggled with earlier in my career. And I just want to let you know that if you feel that's totally normal. There's nothing wrong with you. And also that it's okay. But your clients will not think you're a fraud. Your clients will not call you out and run away if you take a moment to breathe. So I want to give you a couple tips first before we dig into these posing techniques to help you feel a little bit more comfortable. So if you're at a session and you're, thinking, oh my gosh, what comes next? What do I do? Or maybe you're not sure where to look, or maybe you think, oh, the light might be pretty good over there, but I'm not sure. Should we go look? A couple different things. Number one, I want you to think, first of all, to change your belief that a break isn't bad, that your client might actually appreciate a momentary break to just, hey, hang out here for 1 second. Let me go check something out. I'll be right back. Like, that's okay. Number two, if you're photographing a dog, well, the dog likely needs a break every now and again. So it's really in the best interest of the dog that you do slow down and you do take a break every now and again. So hopefully one of those two thoughts can help you feel a little bit more confident in this break situation. So a couple tips if you find yourself at a session and find your mind blanking on what to do next. Number one is I will sometimes just tell my client, hey, hang out here for 1 second. Let me go check something over here. I think I might want to shoot over here, but before I make you walk over, let me go check it out. I'll be right back. So you can go over and check out the light, check out another area that you're at. Even if you're familiar with it, if you just need a second, that's okay. Just walk away for a minute to check on something. I mean, don't leave your client for like half an hour. That would be bad. But if you literally need to walk away for 2 to 3 minutes and then come back, that's okay. You can definitely do that. And while you're doing that, maybe you look on the back of your camera, you kind of go through. I do that a lot where I'm just like, all right, hold on, just relax for like a second. And I even tell them, like, let me look and see what I have so far just to make sure I haven't missed anything that I want to. That's totally okay to say to your client. So I will literally just right in front of them. It's like, okay, hold on 1 second. I need to check something here real quick. I just want to make sure that I've gotten everything that I've wanted to get coming here. And I'll just kind of go through and make sure that I've kind of checked the boxes of dog by themselves, maybe some action, dog with the owner, some formal, some casual, and then of course anything that we might have talked about prior to the session that they wanted to do with their images, kind of making sure that things are there. The other thing that I will do is if I have a situation where I'm not really sure if what I'm thinking about trying might work, or if a client's like, oh, there's a beautiful gazebo over here. Can we please do some photos of the gazebo? And I know, okay, yes, we can do the gazebo photos. Don't know that they're going to look okay. A couple different things. If the client's asking you to do some photos at the gazebo, okay, you can humor them, do one or two, or you can also say to them, oh, well, thanks for that suggestion. I do love the lines of the gazebo. Find something. You've got to find something that you like about the gazebo. And say something like, oh man, I love the lines of the gazebo, but the lighting's really, really harsh there. So it might not be the best place for a photo. And usually they'll be like, oh, okay, wherever you want to go then. Or they might say, oh, but that gazebo is really, really special to us. We were engaged there or whatever. Maybe there's some special reason. And in that case, you would say, oh my gosh, of course. Yeah, let's go see what we can do there. So you don't have to just do anything that your client suggests. That's how I usually handle that type of situation. Now, the opposite situation is when you see something that you're like, oh, I really like this background, but that light's a little harsh, or, that light's really gorgeous, but maybe this doesn't work in that situation. If I'm not sure that it's definitely going to work, I will sometimes say to my client, hey, you know what? I have an idea. I'm not sure if it's going to work though. So that way you're kind of letting them know that you might not see these final images in your final gallery because they might not work or we might stop really fast. So then we'll kind of set it up and I'll try it. And if it's just not working, like if I'm, the light's really, really harsh and I can't work with it, or, something else is going on and it's just not turning out how I thought maybe I could envision it or how I can have it turn out, I will literally stop and say, you know what, this is not working. I don't like this. Let's move on to another spot. I think a lot of photographers get really, really scared about saying that because they don't want their client to think that they're not professional or they don't know what they're doing. Gosh, especially you guys when you're starting your business. Remember how nerve-wracking it was because we don't feel like we know what we're doing. And quite frankly, even 15 years in, sometimes I'm like, oh, I hope I know what I'm doing today. I hope I can figure out how to photograph a dog today. Like we still have those thoughts. So it's totally normal to have those thoughts no matter what stage you're in. But I hope those suggestions can help you feel a little bit more confident, taking a moment, taking a breath, being honest with your client, letting them know like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work. Let's try. Oh no, this is terrible. Let's move on. It's totally okay to say things like that. Now, one other thing I do want to talk about that people often ask me is they ask if I ever show the back of my camera to my clients. And the answer to that is a sometimes. I will sometimes share back of the camera with them if there's a shot that I know that they're going to see and that it's going to make the final cut, and especially if you're working with a client that maybe feels a little self-conscious about themselves, or if they feel like their dog is just not behaving, or you can tell they're feeling pretty stressed about their dog's behavior. I find that showing them a photo or two on the back of the camera is a quick way to help them feel more confident that they can, because they don't always believe me when I say, hey, no worries. Your dog is acting just like a lot of other dogs that I photograph. I promise they're not the worst one. And they're like, no, really, this is pretty bad. Like, I think we are the worst one. So I find that showing them, I'm like, no, seriously, he's fine. Look at this beautiful stuff that I'm capturing. And that can allow them to relax a little bit more too. So just a couple little tips here for you. All right. So let's dig into some of these different poses that we can do with our dogs. Because, like I said, it's pretty easy. Even if you have a planned, like a shoot list or shot list, shot list, shoot list. Okay, I can speak. Sure. It's a podcast. It's fine. I know English. All right. Even if you have a shot list prior to your session, that can all go out the window sometimes. Either the dog is not going to cooperate with that particular shot list, or maybe you just forget some things. Also, by the way, clarifying point here. If you ever leave a session and then you say to yourself, oh man, I really wish I would have done X, Y, or Z. Again, you are not alone. I honestly don't think I have ever in 15 years left a session and said to myself, well, that went as well as it could have possibly went. I captured everything that I wanted, and there is absolutely nothing I would have changed or done better. Not once. So those thoughts are totally normal. Please remind yourself that you captured some beautiful images and your client is going to love what you created. Okay. So don't beat yourself up, because there's always, hindsight is 2020. There's always things that we can think of afterwards that we would have wished we captured or improved upon. So don't beat yourself up for that. All right. So I want to share with you 3 images or 3 types of shots that are just for our dogs, not with people. And then we'll go into 3 shots that I use. All 6 of these I use in almost every session. Now, remember, this is a podcast. You can't see it. Down in the show notes, there is a link to go grab these 6 posing guides for free. Just head over to www.hairofthedogacademy.com/posing-tips. So POSING-TIPS, all lowercase, although I don't think that matters. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about these different cards. So the first one that I use almost every time is I call place. Now, even if the dog does not have a place or a sit or a stay or any sort of behaviors, this still works really, really well. And that is when you place the dog up on an object. This could be a curb, this could be a tree trunk, this could be a log. I mean, it could be so many different things, but a lot of times if our dogs get up on a little bit of something, they will naturally kind of stay at that edge, even if it's just a few inches. I don't know what about the natural history causes them to do that, but it can be really helpful. Now, if they don't have a stay, they don't have a sit, they can also stay at that place with their leashes on. This isn't something that you have to take leashes off. Don't forget that we have the power of Photoshop to remove leashes, remove owners, remove arms, so that we can keep just about any dog where they need to be. to photograph them appropriately. So don't be afraid of removing things in Photoshop. But like I said, you don't want to remove extra things. Like, don't be so lackadaisical that I'll remove it in Photoshop that you're like, oh yeah, sure, come to the session with all the harnesses and all the things. I'll just remove it in Photoshop. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about if the dog will not stay, keep him on a leash, keep the leash straight up, so it's not laying by feet or legs or the sides of the dog or underneath like the ears. If it goes straight up above their neck, behind their head, it's usually really pretty simple to remove in Photoshop. So look for places that you can put your dogs up on items, and then you can make a quick noise to get their attention. Now, I do want to kind of talk real quick, just real quick, about different ways to get dogs' attention. Because here's the thing. Most dogs are pretty interested in novel noises. Dogs like sight hounds are a little bit less interested in novel noises because they are sight hounds. So they're more interested in movement. Now, that doesn't mean they won't turn their head and put their ears forward for a really interesting new novel noise. But I find that those novel noises wear off really, really fast with a lot of sight hounds. Whereas other dogs, you can keep going with some novel noises a little bit longer, a few more times. However, I don't think there's any dog out there that will, look forward, prick their ears for the same noise for a whole session. So you need to change these things up. It could be making weird puppy noises with our throat, like sort of thing. You can have a squeaker. Be careful, some dogs like lose their mind for squeakers. I always usually ask owners, how food motivated are they? Are they crazy for squeakers? Things like that before I pull those tools out. One of my favorite things for getting expression from dogs is a hunting call. In particular, a cottontail rabbit distress call. If you search that on Amazon or Cabela's or any hunting outdoor store, you will be able to find a variety of that. And it's a great small call that you can blow in either way to make a variety of different noises. And it's really, really novel, and most dogs have not heard it unless you're photographing a photographer's dog, in which case, buckle up. They're the hardest because they already know all of our sounds. But anyway, so no matter what you're doing for any of these different poses that we're talking about, I recommend getting your subject in the right location first, and then making sure your settings are correct on your camera, that you have everything dialed in. Take a test shot, with people not paying attention. And then as soon as that's all ready and you have everything ready to go, then make the noise, take a photo real quick. I find that to be the best practice to get the most out of these different novel noises. All right, so that's number one, place. Number two is what I call layer up. And this actually will work with images of the dogs and people, or just the dogs, but I definitely utilize it for a lot of portraits that I take, and especially for dog portraits. I find that it works really, really well. And what that is using a long lens, so either like your 70 to 200 or your 135, or at least like your 100, something like that, to create compression from the background and the foreground. If you aren't sure what this means, I want you to, if you have them, grab a wider angle lens, like a 35 or wider, and then grab your like a long lens, a 135 or longer. Sorry, 35 or wider, or a 135 or longer, and just take a picture of the same thing with a background that's a little bit far away, and see how much bigger and closer the background gets when you shoot with that longer lens. So with this layer up, what I want to do is I want to create basically a sandwich of interest in my image with the dog in the middle. So I want something interesting in my foreground, and I want something interesting in my background, and then I want the dog in the middle. So oftentimes that can be some tall grasses or some foliage in the front, and then, some pretty trees or something in the background, and then the dog's kind of right there in the middle. So what that does is it adds depth to the image, it adds interest for the viewer, and it's just a really beautiful way to create a really gorgeous portrait of your subject. So whether you're with dogs and people or just dogs, doing that layer up strategy is a great way to create some interest. All right. Number 3 for one of my do it every time top poses for a dog photography is the puppy dog eyes shot. Now, caveat. There are occasions when a particular dog might not be able to handle this shot. If you have a very nervous dog or a dog that might sometimes be so nervous that they start to get aggressive, I would not do this shot. And for all dogs, I would be very, very cautious of what type of body language they are sharing while you're creating this image. Because here's the thing. Our camera looks like a giant eye. Predators have big eyes on the front of their head. When two dogs are staring at each other in the face, that's kind of like a potential aggressive aggression rising situation. It's a little bit threatening for the dog. So when we have this giant camera and we're right over them, shooting down on them, that can be a pretty scary situation for a lot of dogs. So, number 1, I pretty much never do this shot right away early in the session. I save this for towards the end of the session when the dog's really comfortable with me, the dog's been really comfortable for the camera, and then it's a lot easier for the dog to be totally fine for this particular image. And then the other thing I just always make sure of is, again, watching that body language. So for this shot, you usually want a wider lens, 24 or 35 millimeter, sometimes a 50 millimeter if it's a really small dog. And you kind of want to have the dog looking up, doing those puppy dog eyes that all of our owners know when they're sitting next to you, looking up at you with those big sad eyes. This is an image that sells really, really well. Almost all owners love these images and end up buying them in some way during their sales session. So you just want to make sure that the dog is comfortable. So you will just kind of shoot down on the dog. If their head is totally like taking over and you don't have any legs, you can, instead of going directly over them, if you move back a little bit, so you're kind of shooting at a more, maybe 60 or 45-degree angle down towards the dog's face, then you'll see their chest and their legs down below as well. So there's numerous ways you can set that up. Just kind of play with the different perspectives and see what you like. So the biggest moral of the story, though, for this particular shot is just really be careful and watch that body language and make sure that the dog is comfortable with that. All right. So we also have 3 additional poses for with our people. So the one that I do pretty much every time, and it's usually kind of the first shot that I'll do once the owner is involved with the dog. And actually, quite frankly, I often start with the owner and the dog, especially I live in North Carolina. You guys, it is humid and warm here a lot of the year. So I try to get my owner and dog photos done early in the session before everybody's hair gets frizzy and we all get sweaty and gross. That way I got some images while they still felt fresh and looked good. And then we'll focus on the dog only shots for the last half of the session. That just tends to be my workflow. But one of the first things I do is what I call is the set up once and go. So whenever I'm photographing a dog with their human, I always kind of set them up to grab that formal, smiling, looking at the camera, traditional image first. And then I keep them there and I give them some different suggestions, like give them some love. That's usually just what I say. And that allows them to just kind of start to interact with their dog however they usually interact with their dog. And then I'll just keep an eye, like if they're doing that and their hair totally falls in front of their face, I might direct, okay, move your hair behind your one ear. Or if they do that and their arms totally blocking the dog's head, I might say, okay, actually pet them with your other arm, so you're not blocking them. So you can just start to direct a little bit while the owner and the dog are interacting. So that it sets the photo up for the best photo. But I personally stay away from strict posing there. I just kind of give them some suggestions in the moment to make sure it look as best as possible, but allow them to just go ahead and interact with their dog how they usually would. Another little trick if you want to get the dog looking up at the owner's face, is you can say to the owner, go ahead and just blow in the dog's nose, like blow at the dog's face, just like a little light blowing out of your mouth. And the dogs usually are like, who knows all the crazy smells that are coming out of our mouth. We're like, oh, what is that? And they'll look towards you and start smelling, or look towards the owner and start smelling. But if you do that, make sure you let the owner know, like as soon as they're done blowing, to smile again, because then they just keep that little like duck lips, like blowing air face, and that doesn't always photograph so well. So just a little quick tip there. So yeah, that works well. And then we're able to get a whole bunch of kind of relationship images as well as that traditional shot. But I want to make sure everybody has a chance to see and choose from. All right, the other one that I love to do too is what I call a front and center. So this is usually using a wider lens, a 24 or a 35 lens, and it's often a client favorite because the dog is front and center and in focus and kind of closer to the camera, and then the owner's in the back and still noticeable, like their friends will know who they are if they saw that photo. So it's like still in focus enough that it's them, but they're out of focus and in the background and just a little bit softer. And they just usually really love that. So I have the dog sitting kind of right next to the owner, and I'm using usually my 24 for these, but you can do a 35, but I personally love my 24. And then you take a photo of the dog. You're closest to the dog, so it's like you, the dog, the owner's behind the dog. So it's kind of like lined up that way, even though the dog's kind of sitting next to the owner. And so you get the face of the dog in focus, and the owner's towards the back, a little bit out of focus, and they can be kind of reaching up, having their hand on the back of the dog, or just with their hands in their lap, or whatever kind of makes sense for how they usually interact with their dog. But it is an image that clients usually like a lot. They really, really love it. You can do it with a 50, but it's a lot more challenging to kind of get the owner in the frame. I find that the 24 or 35 work best for that. All right, one more of my favorites for dog and owners is what I call lucky dog. So this can be standing behind your client's shoulder and having the dog facing your client. And usually I have my client sitting on a bench or sitting on the ground, or sitting on like a little log or something, so that the dog's face is a little bit lower than the client's. It could be maybe a foot or two lower than clients, or about the same area. It really doesn't matter so much. You just don't want like a person standing and then like a dog that comes up to their like knees or thighs. Like that's just too big of a disconnect. So you want the dog's head probably somewhere from like the owner's mid body on up to about the same layer as their face. So anywhere in there, that height works well. So I then just tell my client to look at or interact with their dog while I get the attention of the dog looking at me. So it's the dog looking into the camera, and then the owner looking at the dog, smiling or like loving on them. And it's such an engaging photo, and owners often absolutely love it because they get to see the beautiful face of their dog that they love, and also them being happy, but the focus of the photo is really on the dogs and that relationship of theirs. So that is a really great, fun photo. Now, this particular shot is usually best with a 35 or 50. A 24 can just give you a lot of distortion around the edges of the frame, around the owner's face, if it is, the owner's head is in there too. So 35 or 50 are my go-to for that particular shot. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful to get a couple new ideas, and hopefully, not beat yourself up too much for feeling a little bit nervous on shoots sometimes. Yeah, and if you want to download those free 6 poses, just go to www.hairofthedogacademy.com/posing-tips, and you can grab those. And also, if you want to grab all 50 cards, they are printed cards, 6x6. We have digital versions that you can go online and see the digital PDF. You can add the gallery of those posing cards to your phone, so you have them on the go. And then we have the physical ones connected by really just a big loop, so they're all together, but you can put them in different orders. They fit in a camera bag really, really well. If you want to grab those, we actually are having a discount on those. If you want to grab them, you can save $50. They're usually $97, but you can get them for $47. And that does include free shipping to the continental US. However, international addresses, we do have a flat rate shipping charge of $18.99 because it's really expensive to ship anything other than a letter outside of the United States. And that doesn't even cover it, but it just subsidizes it for us to ship it to you guys that are outside of the US. So sorry about that extra charge, but yeah, it's just crazy. Take it up with the Postal Service. Anyway, if you want to grab the posing cards, you can just go to www.hairofthedogacademy.com/posing. If you have any questions, let us know. And I hope you found this helpful. And I hope this helps ease some of your fears and nervousness at the next session that you go to. And these posing cards will give you lots of new ideas so that you really never run out of things to do. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Talk to you soon.